obviously something we want our students to know more about. Okay, I know you can't read that, but I just wanted to show you what it would look like. If I clicked on the bar for academic, I can get all these concordance hits, all 4,000 of them if I wanted. Starting with the year, its academic text, the name of the journal, which is interesting, and then highlighted examples of our word in the middle, more or less, of the concordance lines. Okay, so what if I want to know about context? What if I want to know about its slots before and after this word? Okay, this is a very cool function of this program. What I can do is, let's just, for example, say I want to know what's the most common word that goes after underline. So just one slot, right?
Reasons.
Ooh, you jumped the gun, but you're glad I was going to ask that.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so there are two ways you can search this. I can plug in one here, and so there's two ways you can do this. You can go by frequency or mutual information. Frequency just means literally what's the most common thing that goes after it, but that might be a comma, or an or a the, which might not be that important. But there's also a statistical way to search called mutual information, and I'm not even sure exactly what the math is on this, but more or less it says, what's the likelihood that this word and this word would be together? If it finds a significance, that will be higher up on the list. So we heard underlying reasons, anybody that? Principles, assumptions, causes,
competency.
You can actually read that from me? Well, you're very good students. Okay. Causes, problem, cause, assumptions. Nobody said okay. So yeah, that aha moment is kind of, oh, there's my native speaker intuition, but now it's in computer form. Yeah. So the thing that maybe you didn't think of. Okay, so that's just one example of some things that you can do. So hand it over to the students, right? Well, that's what I thought. I got really, really excited. I thought, oh my gosh, this is so cool, 400 million words. And I started, all these things I can do, and I started giving them concordance lines, and I started bringing them into the lab and showing them how to do everything. And what do you think happened after about 20 minutes?
They got overwhelmed.
They got completely overwhelmed, and they started doing things like, hey Nick, look, Tobias's name is in the corpus 400 times. Okay, you guys really got the point of what we're trying to do here. So, yeah, so number one, 400 million words is way overwhelming. And all the research, everything that I've read on people that have done kind of corpus searches with their classes have all said the same thing. It's just too much. Students are trained to read concordance lines. It's a new thing to have this target word down the middle. You're looking down vertically to try and find patterns and collocations and things like that. And the idea that you've got all these examples from lots of different texts, it takes some work to get trained to learn how to do it right. Okay, yeah. Another thing that was brought up this morning in a graduate student forum is that there are a lot of unknown words. And students aren't comfortable at first kind of saying, I can skip this because I can still figure out the meaning and I can see the patterns. They want to know all the words, and so they're going to sit there with their dictionary and check everything. It's time consuming, especially at first, and it feels really tedious. And even for me, when I first started looking at it, I got really interested in it, and I realized I would spend 2 hours on stuff.
Perhaps you will mention this later on in your presentation, but have you had a chance to look at the Alex tutor in comparison to that? Because
yes.
They have like a closed quiz that you could create in the lab. Do they have also?
Exactly, yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about next.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Okay, well, so then that's the thing. If we want to use this powerful, tool, but we don't want to give them everything at once, what can the teachers do? Don't give it to them at first. So how can we use the corpus to inform our own teaching? And again, like I was saying before, it's a lot of work. So take some time to just sit down and fiddle with it yourself. They've got a little it's called the tour for linguists or the tour for non-linguists. And it goes through all the different kind of searches. The most important thing is trying to figure out what kind of things you would want to look for, and then figuring out what the coding is, or how do you type it in so that you can find what you want to find. So how is really important. And the way that I've been doing it to practice myself is while I'm writing academic papers, I go in and search for stuff. The other day I was looking for, I was saying something about an averted disaster, and I thought, oh, there's a really cool word that goes before averted. I know, like closely averted or barely And so I typed it in, what's the adjective that goes before averted, and it was narrowly averted. And of course you're all thinking, oh, I knew that, but at the time I couldn't come up with it.
And Nicholas, I use this since my second language is German, and I want to know how to write my friends, or I want to be right.
Yeah.
The concordances or even some of the dictionaries in German offer that, which is very helpful, and I don't have to have a native speaker next to me to help me.
Yeah, well that's the nice thing is that they're starting to do it in lots of different languages. In fact, Mark Davies for his website, he's got one for Spanish as well, and Portuguese too.
Is this free? Because the one I've been using is not free.
Ooh, no, this is free, yeah, this is the free one.
That's because this is the first I've heard of in America. I've been using the British National Corpus, and you can use a free, you can do some
The
samples.
smaller one like the baby?
Well, no, you can do a few,
Right.
and they don't charge you for it. Otherwise, your college or university has to pay for a subscription to it. So this is free.
So that's the other great thing. So Portuguese, Spanish, but then also he has the British National Corpus with the same interface. So you can do American or British. Yeah, so it sounds like you guys know what you're talking about. Good. So what we can do is we can use it to inform our own teaching and not give it to the students. So comparing the textbook explanation to the COCA search samples, one example that I thought of was the other day in my class we were talking about not only but also, because the teacher that I'm working with says students always want to know about this, they always want to use it in their writing, and they always mess it up. So I wanted to know, what do textbooks say about it? And in the dictionary it just says, oh, by the way, you can also do not only ... but also. Didn't really explain it very well. And the textbook that we were using really emphasizes this inversion of not only will he, but he will also. And so I spent a lot of time talking about that inversion. But if you look on page 4, there actually aren't page numbers, but on the 4th page there's an example from academic science and technology from COCA. And if you look through the concordance line, you don't have to look now, but you notice a lot of other patterns. Okay, so I found not only verb but also verb, not only noun but also noun, not only about this but also about something else, and then lots of examples where there was no inversion. So if I'm going to teach this phrase in my class, I probably want to go to the corpus first and think, okay, well, what things are going to come up? What else do I want my students to know about how to actually produce this thing? Okay, so that's one way. We can do searches before. We can prioritize what we want to teach. So we don't have a lot of time in the class. What's the most important vocabulary? If I did a search on COCA, I could probably find the most important collocates. So if I just want to give 3 or 4 collocates, I probably want to give the ones that are the most common. You could also go to the academic word highlighter. So the academic word list by April Cox said it's the 570 most frequent academic words, which she found with her own, using her own corpus. You can't really see it, but I plugged in a text from the class that I was teaching, and it highlights all the academic words, and actually there are even subcategories, but we'll look at that just in a second. But if I want to know which academic words I should be teaching, I probably want to start with something like this, so I know what to emphasize in class.
Is that on the same website, or did you go somewhere else to do that?
Yeah, that one's actually a different website, and that's
from the complete website.
yeah. All the things that I'm working or that I'm showing today, they're all referenced in the back, or actually on the second page, I think, with their website and kind of more about how you can use them. Yeah. So the last one was something from University of Nottingham. I don't know if that one's I don't know if that one's actually that useful, just because it's only highlighting. You could also make gap fills. But the gap fills are like 400 gaps in a text, and when you get your word list, it's just gigantic. It's a little overwhelming. You can go to the Complete Lexical Tutor and go to their vocab profiler. I stuck in the same text as for the last one, and I wanted to highlight it broke it down into academic words, but it even breaks it down further into sublists. So number 6 is somewhere in the middle. Sublist 10 is the most frequent academic words, but the least frequent in the text. And what you notice is our buddy underline is used 3 times, so that's probably something I want to highlight in my class using that text. It also, in vocab profiler, it'll also give you it'll highlight the first 1,000 most frequent words and the second 1,000 most frequent words. So depending on your level, you might, yeah. So it's, and the website's not really great, but